I have some slides also, which basically they contain a picture of a seal with Indus text on it.
Yeah.
There is the Sanskrit for that, and there's the English translation for that. Okay, so the first one I'll talk about, the seal has Indus text, and the Sanskrit says, Sahasam Yanam Anara. Okay, so this means boldness for the voyage, O breath giver. So you can identify some words here. So sahasam, I think we realize it means courage or boldness. Yanam refers to a sea voyage. Now anara is less well known, so it means breath giver, giver of life breath. So what this basically the context might have been that people are departing for a long sea voyage. Now, we know from archaeological evidence and from literary evidence back in Sumer and Mesopotamia that they had a very thriving international trade going on with the Indus Valley Civilization.
Yes, yes.
But, the thing is that originally the sea routes would have been unknown to our people as well. So the Indus Valley people also would have to actually find out the sea route, because remember at that time there were no compasses, there were no previous maps, and so they were basically pioneers, and that's why they are asking for courage. They are determined to go on this adventure, but it's risky. And the question is that how were they able to do this? And my hypothesis here would be that they could probably do it because of their knowledge of astronomy. So they were very well acquainted with the night sky and the positions of stars. And this I actually know because of the work of another scholar named Professor Aryan. So he had some work where he talked about two ancient astronomers named Parashar and Vriddha Garga. He dates them to about 1400 BC, but they have mentioned or they have shown in their work that they had access to 1300 years of recorded observations before them, which means that there were records of stars, planetary movements, comets, etc. way back from 2700 BC. So 2700 BC, of course, falls very nicely in the time frame of the
Indus
IBC.
Valley.
Yeah, and you can also probably guess that before you start systematically maintaining records, you must also have been just informally observing the night sky for many, maybe centuries before that. So I'm guessing that this probably gave them courage, because another thing which we know of from archaeology is that it's only the Indus Valley people who were going all the way to Mesopotamia. They were not coming here. So they were probably not very familiar or confident about the sea routes. And we had attained expertise. And one other thing which we know a little bit about is our boats and ships, which were apparently, they did not involve nails at that time. So they were just made of rope twined together and reeds twined together. So it might have felt quite dangerous during a sea voyage. Okay, so I'll go to the next seal, which is also related to this. Now you can see this is a much longer inscription because there are 3 lines of text. And by this time, people had actually become more confident. So this message says, so I'll read out the Sanskrit. So this says, Rava amam manasaksha jathala dhararaha. Okay, so jathala is the word for ocean, and the English says, honor the powerful roarer, O sustainer, O ocean, yield to the capable man. Okay, so here you can see a couple of things. First of all, these speakers have become much more confident because they're actually telling the ocean and they're saying, yield to the capable man. So they consider themselves very capable by this point, and they think the ocean now needs to just listen to them and they'll have a smooth voyage. Okay, so now the next 2 seals I'm going to show, they are related to another theme. So the first one I'm showing, it has a short inscription which says, Madanam Hatam Kara, which means O killer of Kama. Okay, so this is really interesting because this refers to a legend which appears in writing in much later Sanskrit literature. So Kalidas has a Mahakavya called Kumar Sambhava, where this story comes up that Shiva is actually the killer of Kama. And the reason he kills Kama is that, at that time, Shiva was at a point in his life when he just wanted to be an ascetic. He did not want to get attracted to anyone. And at that point, Parvati appears, and Kama, who's the god of love, he also appears and he shoots an arrow at Shiva. So Shiva starts feeling attracted to Parvati and he gets very angry. So he says that this is Kama's fault and he kills Kama, like he burns him up. So what this inscription shows us is that this legend is actually extremely old because it was clearly there in the Indus Valley times. Okay, so we don't know, of course, if it was written down somewhere in those times because apart from the seals and the pottery, most of the writing materials would have been extremely perishable. So those have not survived. Right, and we also know that we had a very strong oral tradition, and probably the reason we had it is because our writing materials were perishable. So we knew if it's something important, then we have to memorize it. For example, the Vedas, they were basically passed down in completely perfect form. So even orally for many generations. Okay, so. This also tells us another interesting thing that back in the Indus Valley era, already both Kamdev and Shiva are being worshipped. Oh. Okay, so this takes me to a very famous seal called the Pashupati seal.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a very famous seal. Every student who has been through the NCERT books, they've seen this seal in the textbook of history. And we all, since the childhood days, have seen this particular seal, wondering what it means. So maybe you can give and explain.
Okay. Yeah, so this, as you can see in the seal, there is a horned figure seated in a yogic posture, and there are animals all around the seal, and there is a short message in Indus Script at the top of the seal. Okay, so this is known as the Pashupati seal because Shiva basically was the lord of animals. So these animals are basically all under his control. Okay, and the inscription has been deciphered to say A Shasana Mana. So this means O honorable punisher of Kama. Okay, so this is again referencing the same legend as the previous seal. Okay, so now I come to another seal. So this is a unicorn seal. So unicorns appear very frequently on Indus seals. But there's also a short message in Indus text on the top, which just has one, so it just means Dahanai. So Dahanai means by the three fires. Okay, now this is very significant because in Vedic Hinduism, specifically in the Yajur Ved, three different fires are mentioned. So one is called the Ahavaniya, which means the fire which is used for offerings to the gods, to the devas. And this has to be in a square-shaped altar. The second fire is called the Garhapatya fire. So this is the householder's fire. This has to be in a circular altar. And this is basically passed on from fathers to sons when the sons get married. So when they are stepping into Grihasthashram. Okay, and the third fire is called Dakshinagni. So this is used for offerings to ancestors, and this is supposed to be semicircular.
Okay.
And there are two interesting details connected to this. So the first one is that such fire altars have actually been found in excavations by archaeologists of Indus sites. For example, I had recently gone to Lothal. So in Lothal, one of the houses in the lower town, which is where the common people lived, it had two different fire altars of this type. So I think one was circular, one was square. And in many other Indus sites as well, they've excavated such fire altars. Okay, so it's connected to the archaeological evidence. And the second interesting thing is that in the Yajur Veda, they not only give us the shapes, but they say all these 3 fire altars have to have the same surface area. Now the thing is, how would you measure all this in an era when you did not have compasses, protractors, even rulers? So this actually led to the development of a branch of knowledge which we can call Vedic geometry. And this ultimately led to a collection of texts called the Sulba Sutras. So Sulba means rope, and the reason it's called Sulba Sutra is because rope was used for most of these measurements.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've written an article about this elsewhere. So the Bodhayan Sulba Sutra basically contains the Pythagoras theorem statement, and the result itself might have been known to us even before that. So Bodhayan Sulba Sutra is conservatively dated to 800 BC. But clearly a long time before that, people had been trying to work on geometry. So this is another thing connected to this. And now I will also show you the Dholavira signboard. So there are 10 Indus symbols on this signboard, and it's pretty well known. So Dholavira was a major Indus Valley Civilization site, and it was actually a port. And this signboard was a huge signboard, and it was found on the entrances to one of the gates, okay, which led to the city. So that had that signboard, and it was made of gypsum, which means it glowed at night. Okay, so what does the Sanskrit say? So the Sanskrit says Raka Vararakam Araras. So this basically means gem of chosen gems entrance. So Araras is Sanskrit for door or entrance. Okay, and you can imagine that this signboard would serve 2 purposes. One is because it glows in the dark. When traders are coming to Dholavira at night, they'll actually be able to see the sign and they'll be able to safely land.
Yeah.
And the second thing is it's actually telling them where the gems quarter is located. So if they want to trade in gems, they can immediately go there.